Meghan Markle's estrangement from her own father wasn't just a footnote, it was a precursor. The same pattern of public fallout, emotional allegations, and media overexposure now defines Prince Harry's fractured relationship with his own family. Behind the scenes, palace officials watched that playbook unfold. Personal grievances turned into global headlines, privacy claims followed by Netflix deals, and deeply emotional moments repurposed for public narratives. King Charles may have wished to believe his son would choose loyalty, but over time, the pattern became impossible to dismiss. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. The latest reports show the monarch has now closed the door, not out of anger, but self-preservation. The tragedy isn't just in what's being said, it's in what's being lost. Trust between Harry and the monarchy wasn't shattered in a single moment. It decayed, slowly, with every attempt to reshape public perception. Failed media strategies like cookie queens and contradicted claims of royal contact only highlighted the disconnect between public messaging and private reality. As King Charles stands firm in his decision, one truth remains clear. Reconciliation, no matter how publicly hoped for, cannot survive repeated betrayal. This story lands with a kind of finality that the royal family usually avoids saying out loud. King Charles has made it clear that whatever hope once existed for repairing the relationship with his youngest son is now gone. Not paused, not delayed, finished. The message coming from the palace is blunt. Trust has been broken too many times, and there is no realistic path back to the way things were. This is not framed as a dramatic punishment or an emotional outburst. It is presented as a decision reached after years of strain, public attacks, and repeated disappointments. From the king's perspective, the issue is no longer about disagreements or hurt feelings. It is about credibility. Once that is gone, especially in a family that also functions as an institution, there is nothing stable left to build on. The emphasis from those close to the situation is that this breakdown is not sudden. It is the end result of a pattern that has played out publicly for years. Private conversations became media moments. Family disputes became content. And each time that line was crossed, another layer of trust was stripped away. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. What remains now is a king who has drawn a firm boundary and is not backing away from it. Prince Harry, meanwhile, continues to present a very different version of events. Publicly, he has suggested that communication is ongoing or at least possible. He has implied that doors are not fully closed and that reconciliation could still happen under the right circumstances. According to palace sources, those claims are simply not true. The reality described by the palace is stark. Harry has not spoken directly with his father for months. There has been no meaningful contact, no quiet rebuilding, no private progress happening behind the scenes. The suggestion that there is active dialogue is dismissed as misleading, and that dismissal is part of why the trust issue has become so severe. From the royal side, this is seen as another example of saying one thing publicly while something entirely different is happening privately. That disconnect has become a defining feature of Harry's relationship with his family. Each time it happens, it reinforces a belief that nothing shared with him can remain private, and nothing said by him can be taken at face value. Meghan Markle is inseparable from this narrative, not just as Harry's wife, but as part of a broader pattern that the royal family believes they have seen before. The breakdown between Meghan and her own father is often cited as a parallel, another relationship that unraveled publicly, with blame assigned, boundaries erased, and no meaningful repair ever achieved. Within royal circles, this history matters. It feeds a perception that estrangement follows wherever conflict meets publicity. The family sees a consistent approach to handling personal relationships. When things go wrong, the details become public and responsibility is framed outward rather than inward. Over time, that approach has left a trail of fractured connections. This is not presented as a personal attack, but as an explanation for why confidence is gone. From the palace perspective, patterns matter more than promises. Apologies lose weight when they are followed by interviews. Reconciliation loses meaning when it comes paired with new accusations or commercial projects built on old wounds. Buckingham Palace has not attempted to soften the message. The response to recent claims and PR efforts has been notably restrained but firm. There has been no attempt to engage in a public back and forth, and no interest in correcting every detail. Instead, The palace has allowed one core point to stand. The relationship is beyond repair as it currently exists. The palace's position is that too many private moments were turned into public narratives. Family interactions were repackaged as proof of wrongdoing. Accusations were made without room for response. Once that line was crossed repeatedly, the institution closed ranks. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. What stands out is how little emotion is expressed in these responses. There is no anger on display, no visible drama. That calmness signals certainty. This is not a family waiting for an apology. It is an institution that has adjusted to life without one of its former members playing any meaningful role. Across the wider royal family, the situation is described as frozen. There is no active hostility, but there's also no contact. Relationships that once existed simply do not function anymore. The idea of casual conversations, shared holidays, or quiet check-ins is no longer realistic. One of the clearest breaking points was Harry's decision to publicly accuse his brother of physical aggression. That allegation landed heavily and permanently altered how the family viewed him. From that moment on, the sense that private disputes could escalate into public accusations became impossible to ignore. The family's response has been to disengage entirely. Silence has replaced argument. Distance has replaced negotiation. From their point of view, engagement only creates new material, and that material inevitably finds its way into the public domain. Harry's recent professional moves have done little to improve his standing. Attempts to revive media projects and reshape his public image are viewed as signs of desperation rather than renewal. Deals that once promised influence and reach have faltered, and enthusiasm from major platforms has noticeably cooled. Projects positioned as meaningful or socially driven have struggled to gain traction, and some have been rejected outright. Within royal circles, this reinforces a belief that Harry's motivations are tied less to reconciliation and more to relevance. Each new venture appears less like a fresh start and more like an attempt to regain control of a narrative that has slipped away. The contrast between Harry's stated desire for peace and his continued public disclosures has become impossible to ignore. To the family, these actions suggest that the cycle would simply repeat if contact resumed. Words of regret would eventually be followed by another book, another interview, another explanation told to the world. King Charles's health has quietly become part of this story, largely because of how it was interpreted. There was a belief, reportedly held by Harry, that his father's illness might serve as a final opportunity to reconnect. That urgency has faded as the king's condition has stabilized and treatment has progressed positively. The palace has made it clear that the king is not at death's door and that decisions are not being driven by fear or time pressure. This matters because it removes any emotional leverage. Reconciliation is not being pursued out of sympathy or vulnerability. It would require trust, and that trust is no longer there. At a personal level, there is acknowledgement that Charles still loves his son. That has never been denied. But love does not automatically translate into access, influence, or forgiveness. As king, Charles is responsible not just for his feelings, but for the integrity of the monarchy. On that front, his position is firm. In the end, this story is less about banishment and more about consequences. Harry and Meghan are not being chased away. They are being kept at a distance because of choices that cannot be undone. The repeated decision to monetize personal grievances has reshaped how they are viewed by the family they once represented. What remains is a sense of finality. Not cruelty, not revenge, but acceptance. Acceptance that some bonds, once broken publicly and repeatedly, do not heal. Acceptance that reconciliation cannot be staged, sold, or negotiated through press statements. If there's a lesson here, it is a quiet one. Privacy, once surrendered, is almost impossible to reclaim. Trust, once lost, rarely returns in its original form. And family ties, even royal ones, can reach a point where distance becomes the only option left. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video, share it with others following the royal story, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more clear, focused coverage. What makes this situation even more stark is how it contrasts with what Harry and Meghan continue to present to the world. Their public narrative emphasizes healing, advocacy, and family love, an ongoing story of misunderstood intentions and unfair media scrutiny. But every statement they release, every interview clip that resurfaces, only widens the gulf. The strategy of controlling the narrative seems to have fully backfired. By constantly engaging with the press and releasing selective stories, they have made it easy for the palace to disengage entirely. The royal family doesn't need to argue, they just need to say nothing. And in the face of silence, Harry and Meghan's narrative spins louder and more awkwardly. Their previous success in building public sympathy has lost traction. The constant stream of disclosures, whether through books, docuseries, or interviews, has created fatigue. What once felt like shocking revelations now come off as recycled grievances. The audience that once leaned in has begun to lean away. And without the benefit of royal proximity or access to fresh royal drama, their influence wanes. The more they talk, the more people notice what's missing: accountability, growth, and any real sign that they've stopped viewing their private lives as content to be managed. And here's the twist that no one wants to say out loud. Even Prince Andrew, with all of his own royal disgrace, is being treated with more institutional leniency than Harry. That alone speaks volumes about how deep this rift runs. The palace never publicly defended Andrew's actions, but they managed his scandal quietly, behind closed doors. His royal duties were stripped, his public presence reduced to zero. But through it all, the royal machine didn't flame the fire. They froze him out, not to punish, but to protect the monarchy. But with Harry, the palace isn't just stepping back. They are making it clear that he has become a reputational liability on a different scale. Not because of criminal allegations, but because of what they view as repeated betrayal and manipulation of the family's private core. To the institution, Andrew was a risk they could quarantine. But Harry has become a public force that won't stop releasing internal conflicts into the spotlight. From their perspective, it's easier to manage scandal than a family member who keeps pulling back. Within that context, the position of Prince William becomes even more critical. The fallout between the brothers isn't just personal, it's deeply symbolic. This isn't sibling rivalry. This is the next King of England choosing distance over diplomacy. William has remained publicly silent, but sources close to him have confirmed the same thing. There is no ongoing contact, no olive branches, no private chats. After Harry publicly claimed that William physically attacked him, the relationship fell into a freeze that hasn't thawed since. That allegation, dropped in the middle of Harry's memoir, may have been one of the final straws. While royal watchers dissected every word, the family quietly processed what that meant. That any past moment could be turned into a public weapon. To William, the damage goes beyond reputation. It's about protecting his family, his wife, and his children from being drawn into a story they never asked to be a part of. His silence isn't passive, it's protective. And Catherine, Princess of Wales, has not been spared. She's been portrayed in books, dissected in interviews, and used as emotional leverage in public appeals. Harry and Meghan often present her as a source of tension, coldness, or disappointment. What gets overlooked is the cost of that portrayal. Catherine has never responded, never counted, never corrected the record. But each time her name is included in a chapter or interview segment, it adds pressure. And now, with her health under scrutiny, the emotional toll is amplified. The royal family views this as a profound line being crossed, bringing health, private tension, and long-past disagreements into the media cycle over and over again. Even those who once sympathized with the Sussexes have questioned why Catherine keeps ending up in the narrative when she clearly wants no part in the spotlight. This has only strengthened the royal family's resolve to keep their distance. Catherine's role isn't just ceremonial. She represents the stability the monarchy wants to project. And any association with ongoing drama is treated as a threat to that stability. Behind all of this is a strategy that clearly isn't working anymore. Netflix, Spotify, even major news platforms are backing away from the Sussex media empire. What once promised endless content has fizzled into awkward cancellations and creative differences. One project in particular, Cookie Queens, was quietly shelved. It was supposed to be light-hearted, empowering, and brand safe. But critics couldn't ignore the contradiction. How do you champion youth safety online while showcasing teen influencers on screen? The hypocrisy was too loud. It's just one example of how Harry and Meghan's branding has become confused. Are they private citizens or public activists? Are they victims of the media or producers of it? The lines are so blurred that audiences have stopped caring. That indifference is dangerous for public figures. It's not the hatred that ends a career. It's the apathy. And the Sussex brand is dangerously close to slipping into irrelevance, especially now that they no longer have access to the one thing that made them globally distinct, the royal family. There was once a time when Queen Elizabeth could serve as a quiet force of balance in all of this. She managed to love both Harry and William without letting public tension boil over. Her death removed that buffer, and the vacuum left behind has never been filled. Many observers believe that if the Queen were still alive, reconciliation might still be possible. Not because she could force it, but because she had a unique way of grounding royal chaos with calm restraint. With her gone, Charles has stepped up not just as monarch, but as a father navigating years of damage. But Charles is not Elizabeth. His patience has limits. His loyalty to the monarchy, especially in his later years, outweighs his emotional desire to fix fractured relationships. And without the Queen's unifying presence, those cracks have spread unchecked. There's no quiet meeting at Balmoral, no behind-the-scenes peace summit, just official silence and unofficial distance. Meanwhile, Meghan remains one of the most polarizing figures in this entire situation. Her supporters point to racism, misogyny, and press cruelty as legitimate causes for her departure. But her critics, and there are many, focus on what they see as a role in the relentless media cycle that followed. Every step away from the royal family has been matched with a new platform, a new release, a new brand. That level of visibility comes with scrutiny. And as time passes, fewer people are convinced that privacy was ever the end goal. Even her relationship with her own family has come under renewed analysis. Her estrangement from her father mirrors Harry's from his. For many in the public, that's not just coincidence. It's a pattern. And patterns, when repeated across multiple relationships, tend to raise questions about common denominators. Meghan may still have influence, but it's no longer rooted in novelty or curiosity. It's measured now by outcomes. And the outcomes, from cancelled deals to public fatigue, are telling a story she didn't intend. Harry's story is still unfolding, but the direction is becoming clearer. He is no longer the rogue prince shaking up the monarchy. He is now viewed, even by former allies, as someone who overplayed his hand. What started as a rebellion has turned into a reputation crisis. Each new step forward, whether it's a podcast, a children's book, or a conference appearance, feels more disconnected from the cause he claimed to care about. And as his public persona evolves, his royal one fades. He no longer appears at major events. He is no longer part of family traditions. His name might still carry weight, but within the monarchy, it no longer carries access. The question now is not if Harry will return. It's whether he even knows what that return would look like, because the version of the royal family he once knew no longer exists. Charles' role in all this is often misunderstood. He is not being cold or calculating. He is being deliberate. He is treating Harry not just as a son, but as a former working royal whose behavior now affects national perception. And for Charles, that perception is everything. The monarchy is bigger than his personal feelings, and has made the decision to protect it, regardless of what it costs him emotionally. There is no appetite for more drama, more rebuttals, or more staged handshakes. The palace has shifted into quiet, calculated disengagement. Charles still expresses love privately, but love alone does not grant a path back into the institution. That's a part many still don't understand. Love and trust are not the same thing. You can love someone deeply and still know that letting them back in could burn everything down. This is where we are now, a family severed, an institution hardened, and a couple drifting further away from the center of power they once belonged to. The emotional bonds may still flicker, but the official stance is unshakable. There is no role left for Harry and Meghan within the royal family. Not because of one mistake, but because of too many choices, repeated too many times. The monarchy survived were scandals in this, but never one so persistently self-inflicted. The silence is not temporary. It is a message, a boundary, a form of control. And while Harry and Meghan may continue to speak, the institution will remain unmoved. If this saga has taught us anything, it's that some bridges don't burn. They collapse under the weight of what's carried across them. If you're still watching, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Share this with others following the story, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns like this. There's something almost poetic about the silence from the palace. No press releases, no clarifications, no emotional rebuttals, just a deep, echoing quiet that says more than any statement ever could. For an institution built on symbolism, the absence of reaction is a reaction, and that silence leaves Harry and Meghan shouting into a void. Their projects come and go, their headlines rise and fall, but the royal family has moved on. The door that once seemed slightly ajar is now bolted shut, not with drama, but with finality. At some point, you stop waiting for a response that will never come. And that's where we are, not in the middle of a feud, but at the end of a story that no longer has two sides, just one side still talking, and the other already gone. Thanks for sticking through the full breakdown. If you're still watching, you probably have opinions, and we definitely want to hear them. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if this helped you piece things together, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this never-ending royal saga.